Welcome. For this video, we will be discussing control dynamics and control dramas. What are they? It is a strategic, either conscious or subconscious method to meeting a need in a covert way, usually. Sometimes it can be very blatantly obvious, but the person is causing the other party to be stressed, hurt, and suffering by creating an emotional manipulation strategy and technique that ultimately gets them what they want. There are many examples of control dynamics and control dramas, so bear with me. There's quite a list and it goes on and on. An example is withholding, such as not giving information, support, or affection, which can be a form of neglect. Minimizing, downplaying others' feelings, achievements, or problems to feel superior, which can be gaslighting. Guilt tripping, such as using people's insecurities and vulnerabilities to make them feel bad about things they did or didn't do. Threatening, which pretty much gains compliance by overpowering people, another one, and aggression, using force or intimidation to control. Distancing or stonewalling, which can be a boundary violation going outward, away from people as a punishment, kind of like the silent treatment. Dominating, micromanaging, it's trying to control every aspect of another person's behavior. Passive aggression, and indirectly expressing anger or frustration to manipulate outcomes. Rescuing or caretaking, such as doing things people didn't ask for, or just using help as support to make other people dependent on them and stuck in situations. Or transactional domination, where people feel like they owe you because you did something for them. Playing the victim control dynamic, manipulating others through self-pity to get attention or avoid responsibility, acting like they're the victim when they may be the aggressor and the one causing the problem in the first place, which is so gaslighting and insidious. Charm or seduction, which narcissistic people can use, using flattery, charisma, or sex appeal to gain compliance. These are all the control dynamics that I've listed, but there's plenty, and they're hard to spot sometimes. Control dramas can be a form of life conditioning from childhood, or they can be a form of sabotage in relationships. There's the rescuer and helpers we mentioned. There's the persecutor, who hyper criticizes and punishes and blames people and gains power that way. The martyr, who just does more than anybody's asking and then expects things from that. And the complainer, people who chronically complain, who are constantly feeling like the world's out to get them or that others are the problem. And the obstructionist, the skeptic, who rejects solutions or advice, resists change, and is very pessimistic. It's very dramatic. And so additional control-related patterns include triangulation, which is pulling third parties into a triangle to get people to side with you. Gaslighting, which is invalidating other people's perception and getting them to question their own memory or how they're thinking or feeling. Love bombing, which is overwhelming with affection to gain confluence. Silent treatment, as I mentioned, to really just psychologically torment someone. And things like projection, like projecting one's own insecurities, vulnerabilities, frustrations, anger, and emotions onto other people or their own beliefs. And it's also a form of blame shifting, like making other people feel guilty and ashamed for things that one may have done or others may have done. They're ultimately broad, but they're strategic. And so they can be calculated where somebody is specifically doing these things to get what they want, or they're just unconscious and unaware of what they're doing. Whether or not they intend it, control dynamics cause stress and dysregulated nervous systems, and control dramas cause exactly that, drama. Both are a form of control, and both really aren't a healthy behavior. They're toxic, and it's oftentimes very abusive because It's a form of mistreatment. It's not kind, it's not loving, it's not caring, especially when people claim that they love you and they care about you and they do this, which not just people do, but companies do, and governments do, and systems do, where they say, we appreciate your loyalty, and then they don't give two craps about your best interests. So who does this the most? Well, it could be people who are very narcissistic in nature, but can be pathological, whether it's narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths. But what's scary is it can be people closest to you, like your own parents, using what they did for you as an excuse to mistreat you or to expect so much from you in life and enough to never be enough. It can be your partner who starts challenges and conflicts out of nothing and constantly finds reasons to berate you or to bring up the past and treat you crappy, or remove themselves from conversation and leave in ways that aren't really healthy, that are damaging because they abandon you, or they just leave without any notice. People who promise you things and then fail to deliver, making you feel like you're now the bad guy for giving them feedback or having needs or standards. All sorts of stuff. It can be that you may have not stuck to your own word and made a mistake as a human, and you own accountability, but people still bring up the same thing again and again, even though you've already resolved that conflict. Or you have good faith and you're attempting to meet them, whether that's on a payment plan or a conflict resolution agreement, and despite that, they still choose to criticize and persecute you as if you're a bad person, even though your actions are showing that you do intend repair. So the underlying similarity between all of these things is that they're really a form of attack, and they are intended to cause disruption and discord because it benefits one person at the expense of another. They have something similar in common because there's a whole list, and they often carry similar traits of like an unmet need where the person is trying to meet their need in a covert, manipulative way. They're insecure, so they can't just communicate what they want and need. They manipulate as a means to an end. They're not trying to actually have a relationship or go along the journey. They just want what they want and they just want to get it. It's really unconscious, but sometimes people are doing it deliberately, and there's usually a power differential or imbalance in the dynamic, or they create one so they can extract and extrapolate and benefit from it. There's usually a big emotional impact on others, which causes them to get upset and react, which then allows the user of these kinds of forms of control to then say, see, look, they're crazy. Look at them, look at what they're saying and doing. And it's a cycle of reinforcement, such as intermittent reinforcement, which is one of the most manipulative and abusive dynamics and control dramas, other than the victim control dynamic, where people give you just enough affection and kindness, but it's inconsistent, and they can treat you with abuse and trauma bond with you. So you get hooked because a part of you is like, well, one part of them is nice and the other part of them is mean. I don't get it. What's going on? There's avoidance of self-responsibility. They're unaccountable, and so they keep you hoping that they'll one day change. And it's a lot of attention or validation seeking. These people are attention vampires. They love to get you to think of them, to talk about them, to get upset, to give them your focus, and ultimately to control you, to control your mind, your brain, your body, your heart, your soul, your life, your spirit, your energy, your whole being, your consciousness. Because in this universe based on the law of attraction, what you focus on improves in manifestation, or it decreases in manifestation based on your focus. And your focus is very powerful. Your attention, it's the current that you see, and the current is currency. It's like a form of energy and money. And so what you're focusing your time and energy on is what you're focusing your money on too, because time is money and money is time, and everything is connected. So these people love to feel false senses of power, and these systems and entities that use this, because they want to trick you into cutting off from alignment with source. They want to get you to stop allowing yourself love and care and good energy and abundance, because then they can step in and say, well, I can provide that for you, or I did provide that for you, so now you owe me, or I get to treat you a certain way because I did something for you, or you did something harmful to me that maybe you didn't even intend, and now I get to hold it against you. Or even if you're sorry, I'm going to bring it back up again and again, or I'm going to silent treatment you, or I'm going to distance from you, or I'm going to gaslight you, or I'm going to play victim in situations that I created, or I'm just going to give you an apology and say I'm going to change, and I promise that then I'll go right back to the same behavior again once you give me another chance, so I can keep you hooked. This is something that not all people doing this actually think, but some of them do, and that's what's scary. Some of them actually know what they're doing, and it's intentional. Like, they plan this out. It's their agenda. It's their ulterior motive. And they're sociopathic, where they literally get off on this. Like, it's fun for them. They enjoy it. Like, their ego enjoys fooling other people and causing them sabotage and suffering, because when people do these things, it actually does sabotage other humans. It actually does cause a discontinuation of the harmony in their life. So then that person manipulating can step in. It's like they create a little crease or a little Achilles heel that then they can just weasel their way into. Or they do a thing where they can weasel their way out of situations without having to take accountability, or without having to actually engage in healthy ways or bring resolution. That way they cause upset, they cause trigger, they cause conflict, and then they don't bring resolution. That's specifically aimed for them to then have the upper hand, right? To have the higher ground, to feel superior. It gives them grandiosity. And these control dramas, they love the drama. They love complaining. They love playing victim. They love gossiping and telling other people about it and getting attention and validation. See, I'm right. They're wrong. Because it helps them feel right. It helps verify their illusory identity of goodness. This is because they're attached to a self-concept that they've created that's not authentic to who they truly are as a soul. And they're not embodying both aspects of themselves, such as their unconsciousness, their shadow side, their ego, into integration, so as to be a well-rounded, whole, conscious being. Instead, they're fragmented into different pieces. And the part of them that's traumatized, that's insecure, that's wounded, that's needing this validation and support from others, instead of communicating that in healthy ways and getting it met, they do it in a way that's obstructive, that's destructive, that's harmful, that's abusive. And they may not mean it, but some do. Some do. And that's why people do evil things, because they can, and they can get away with it. And it's crazy to people who are empathic or who wouldn't do things like that. Why would someone do that? If they have a healthier way of actually getting their needs met, why? Why do people do control dynamics? Why do people do control dramas? It seems insane. And that's because it is. It is absolutely insane. It's clinically insane, according to psychologists and psychotherapists. It's relationally and emotionally taxing and draining. It's logically not even sound. It doesn't add up if you actually look at it objectively. The methods are so dysfunctional and so energetically consuming. Like, they require so much thought. And these people who lie, who steal, who cheat, who manipulate, who control, who cause all these dramas and then blame other people and gossip and, you know, create this whole facade that you actually don't know, you know, and then you don't know, but you know, and so you're confused, and it makes you question your own reality. And it's like, do I know? Do they know? Do we know? And then sometimes you know that they know that you know, but you guys don't say anything. And so it's this weird thing where you can tell they're manipulating, and then you might even tell that they know that you know that they're manipulating. And they'll still do it, because as long as they get away with it, they're fine. It's Machiavellian. Like, as long as they can get to the end, they don't really care about the means. And so it's really important to be careful, because if you call people out on control dynamics and control dramas, they're going to create more drama and try to control you more. They're going to strengthen that dynamic and dig you deeper, and they know what they're doing. Usually they know. And even if it's subconscious, people still know what they're doing because they're getting a benefit. So for them, even if they don't understand the means, they understand they're getting something out of it and they're benefiting, and it's feeling good to them, even if it feels bad for you. So usually they don't care about how you feel, they don't care about your best interests, or they're just being ignorant and failing to consider that. But it doesn't really matter what their intention is, because at the end of the day, kind of like Gray's Law, they are still causing harm and impact regardless of incompetence or maliciousness. It's still malicious because of the impact it's having. And because of their incentives for it, they keep doing it. So it's hard to believe it, because you want to give them the benefit of the doubt through a Calm's razor and Hamlin's razor, where you're like, they're probably just dumb, they probably don't mean harm, they're probably just doing what they learned in childhood. But just because you went through trauma doesn't give you an excuse to keep being a horrible person, and it doesn't give you the right to just deflect accountability and never heal or get therapy or change. So these people have a valid reasoning to why they behave how they do, but sorry, not sorry, that's not an excuse. And saying sorry all the time, saying you'll change and then doing it again is not really a mistake or a lesson, it's a pattern, and patterns repeat, just like history. So it's really important to notice these people in your life. How can you remove yourself from control dynamics and control dramas? Do your best to be quiet. Don't tell them your plan. Don't tell them that you know. Don't tell other people that you know, because they might find out through them. And come up with a plan with a trusted professional who's licensed, or with a friend or family member who you can really trust, who does not know them ideally. And do not write down your plan anywhere they can find it. Do not try to confront them and call them out, especially if there's belongings involved, or there's assets, or there's equity. If there's anything that's at risk with getting involved with this person, you have to be very, very careful, because as soon as you let them know and they're onto you, they're going to switch up. And they might even switch up, not like to punish you, they might switch up and start acting like the way that you want them to act, so that you don't leave, so that you don't catch on to them, and so that they can gaslight you and tell you, well, everything's fine, you're just making it up, it's all in your head. And I haven't been acting that way recently, that was a while ago. And so it's so infuriating, and that's what they use. They want you to get angry and upset, because then they can use that as evidence or proof that you're crazy, even though you're actually not.